Hello and welcome to On the Way Moments, a podcast from St. Anthony on the Desert Episcopal Church here in beautiful and very hot Scottsdale, Arizona. And on this podcast, we have the honor of hearing stories from some very interesting people about their on the way moments that they've experienced on the course of their lives. I'm Will Strong, and I'm your host today. And on today's episode, we have the honor of having someone that you all should know her. Our very own rector, Canon Holly Herring. Welcome back, Holly. It's
Thank
like Welcome
you.
Back, Cotter.
Yes.
I was about to start singing
Welcome back.
but I did not.
Well, I did.
Thank you, because
You're
nobody wants
welcome.
to hear me sing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So welcome back. We're about 5. Yeah, I said we're about 5 months in now. For you being here, is it February-ish?
4 and a half, yeah,
almost
yeah.
5. Yeah. So now that you've been here almost 5 months. We just wanted to talk with you about this, kind of see where St. Anthony is, where you see it going in the future, and where we kind of have that vision. That's the first question I have.
That's like a really big question.
Jump in.
And that probably
Welcome.
you could just not speak again, and I could just keep blithering on about things.
That's all right.
Yeah, when I saw the first podcast that we did, you have such a lovely voice.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I closed my eyes because that's such a radio voice. Of
I got a face for radio.
Radio back in the day, that's such a podcast voice. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I saw this thing. It's like now people say like, oh, let's start a band in the 80s. Now it's like, let's start a podcast. That's like the new band.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I would like to do it, except I don't have that talent.
Yeah.
There's a creativity level there that's not mine.
If we didn't have Jill or Shane, I would just be like, hey, it would pretty much be on a phone.
Thank you.
Yes, very
Yeah.
much so.
There's going to be a lot they're going to have to cut out of this.
Absolutely.
I can see that right now.
Or just fun and have fun with it, because we're hilarious. So
Yeah, so 5 months in,
yeah.
it is most days everything I hoped for and very few things I expected.
Wow. Okay.
And that's kind of my relationship with God as well. Everything I hoped for and nothing I expected.
Yeah.
And the side of that is that the things that I expect are always less than. They're always less than St. Anthony can give me. It's always less than God can give me. It's like I have this idea of things that I deserve as a human being, things that I'm worthy of, things that I have a value for that I should get, and they're very, very low. And then God is like, well, I mean, you could ask for that, but I have like keys to more than just the parish hall and the office. I have keys to the kingdom, and you are worthy of that, and you're all worthy of that.
Yeah.
So that's been my experience with St. Anthony as well, is that I will think, wow, that was amazing. I never saw that happening. So I really have to take a lead from the staff and most of the people here at the church that I come in contact with regularly, who are people that the glass is overflowing. It's not just half full.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, it's about 22% full, but I believe in a God that can fill it if God chooses to. But it's about 22. And then a staff member would remind me, no, it's overflowing with God's grace and mercy. I'm like, okay, Holly, get in the game. That's where people are, and that's where we want to be. So.
And that's a cool place to step into.
Yeah. It's amazing
Yeah.
in parish ministry to come into a community that during the call process and my experience with the community was, this is a really healthy, God-loving, Episcopal identity embracing community. And then you get into it sometimes in parish ministry and you go, excuse me, where did you put my search committee and my vestry? You look familiar. And is that the staff?
It's funny that you say, because I think about that when you came on. I was like, wonder what our parish profile, if it like exceeded, met, or did not exceed the expectations of like a new rector coming in. And so kind of touching on that a little bit, but
yeah, it exceeded in most outward and visible regards. it was similar in the inside invisible kind of things like where are we with technology? Where are we with record keeping? As leadership ebbs and flows, so do all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, so I would say for the most part, everything was authentic.
Nice.
It was like what the parish presented was what is present in the parish. And for me, like I do a one-on-one weekly with the senior warden, and we're working on putting together some sort of process for what the church requests of clergy, which is annual ministry reviews, mutual ministry reviews of not an evaluative process, but how am I doing? How are you doing? How are we doing together? But one of the things I want to make certain that I'm doing is that I'm authentic as well to what I presented.
Right.
You know, I want to, and that's not like a fact checking of, oh, I did say that, didn't I? No, let's just say, are you feeling like I present as the preacher that I reflected in the process? Do you feel like I'm, communicating in a way that I shared is my communication style? Have I named my leadership style as a resource leader, and have you seen that evidenced? Or are you going, you do have a sharp edge with this particular thing you do. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but we want to share that with you. So.
Oh, that's yeah, and I think that's self-aware. I think you and I spoke about that. That's that mindset, and also lining up with who St. Anthony said that they are, also then versus you. I think that's beneficial, and you see that now. They always joke about, not joke, but it kind of is a joke about the honeymoon period. Of it's always like 6 months to 8 months, sometimes to a year, depending on where. And so, do you find yourself still in that period, or?
I'm finding as a second time around seasoned priest, and I'm just going to say seasoned as over a decade in multiple ministry settings. I found that really there's not the same thing of a honeymoon period as I found the first time around. Okay. Like as a first-time rector, people were very, very forgiving on the things I didn't know how to do, I did poorly, I did never vindictively, but just did you not think about us? And it's like, no, in fact, I did not. But the second time around, people, I think, are more willing to share with me when they are disappointed, when they have questions about something that I'm doing or saying. And I think also, God willing, I'm more self-aware now than I was 14 years ago.
Right.
The language of digging a ditch and being willing to be in it. It's like, I don't dig ditches normatively. I don't tell people where I put the dirt when I do dig ditches, and I certainly am not going to stand in the ditch and tell you where the shovel is.
Right.
Because I don't have to pay for. I would rather make amends for what I've done. Asked if I could be a better leader, be a better follower of Jesus, and how can I acknowledge the needs of the person who said, "You've hurt my feelings," or "This is not the direction I expected our church to go," or something like that.
Yeah, that actually, you speaking about that actually just reminded me of my first youth position job, and you're right. That first one, there is that cushion, especially we're younger, we're right out of school, and it's this like, oh yeah, and then all of a sudden you start kind of becoming more aware as we like you said, ebb and flow within our own congregations, and you just kind of make it work.
Yeah, and like when I was new in ministry, I really took the Constitution and Canon so seriously that if you want to know why I made a decision, check the vows I took in the Book of Common Prayer or check the Constitution and Canons, because that's going to be the first place on why did you change the worship and not ask anybody? Well, because the canons say I can.
Right.
And now I'm like, and that's not a good answer. It may be. It's the same answer that like when someone's grieving and and someone has lost a child and someone says, at least you can have others. Well, that's true, but it's not helpful.
That's not helpful
right?
at all.
Or at least they're in a better place.
Yeah.
Or at least they're no longer hurting. or thank God you have your other children. So it doesn't help to go, well, I changed it because I could.
Right.
And if you read the second clause, it says I don't have to ask you. That just doesn't work, right? Because it's not healthy. Mm-mm. It's not relational.
No.
It's not recognizing how people engage in leadership together.
Right.
It's not recognizing that we have different ideas of God, and we need to find a common ground of how we envision God. Otherwise, we're never going to get to whatever that common mission and common vision is that we've spent time with.
Yeah, for sure. And there's always a why.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people want the most is like, why? Why did we change this? Why did we do this? Well, not because I can. I can.
Why have you moved all the furniture? Because I can.
Because I can. Yeah. And it looks and it's better. I mean.
Yeah. Well, why did we spend the money on the extra new thermostats? Right. Because we're wanting to save money.
In the end,
we're wanting to be good stewards of God's creation. So we're trying to live into our identity as members of the diocese and members of the Episcopal Church. Right. So it helps to have, that why ready of there really is a vision behind. But I know that I have in my vocation, in other sections, compartments of my life, been accused of going so far down the road and then expecting people to find where I went. Like I've had this vision and I'm going to be down there, and if I'm not busy, I'll yell back to you. But I am busy. You need to just keep coming.
Keep going on, yep.
And if you get to a fork and I'm busy and I'm not calling and you turn around, that's my fault. Yeah. That's not your fault.
Yeah.
So, in working with my mentor, my coach, my spiritual director, it's always a reminder, whatever it is you're seeing, you've got to come back and be with the people and lead from a different place. Whether that's leading from the back or that's leading as a follower.
Yeah.
If someone's saying, I too have a vision, and I think I've heard some of your vision, and I'm seeing some other visions, and let's all go together.
Yeah.
So I always want to surround myself with people who say, I like the idea. I can see why we do that idea. I need you to come back and see it from other angles. And we've made some significant changes since I've been here that were requested of me as a diocesan priest, like to bring us back to the prayer book and the authorized liturgical resources for the Episcopal Church. That said, it just exploded at General Convention yesterday about what authorized liturgical resources are going to look like. Okay. And that excites me.
Yeah.
That excites me because I know there's a generation of people here who have worshipped in a very Celtic style. And I want to honor that, and we do honor it in our midweek service, but I want to honor it by integrating the depth and breadth of the Anglican tradition around the world, as our church says we may do. Yeah, because that diversity is beautiful.
Right. And that's what I love about the Episcopal Church is the tradition and the depth, and it's just a beautiful. I didn't grow up in this, so like for me coming in on the outside looking in, I was like, I fell in love with this. And you talked about kind of that vision and being moving forward. Where do you see St. Anthony in that vision going towards?
Outward into our neighborhoods, outward into our schools, outward into the diocese. Yeah. Absolutely. Outward into, those are all outwards into. Yeah. Taking our identity and mingling with creation in ways that our identity is calling us to. So probably in the next year to 18 months, we're going to be doing some visioning work. so that as we're going out into the world, we're doing so authentically as ourselves. Right? So we probably, from what I've heard, wouldn't say we're going to go do ice hockey evangelism. There may be some people in the parish that do that, and it's our work to help them find each other and say, yeah, actually we are. This little small group ministry is going to go do ice hockey evangelism. As a community, that might not be our calling, but our calling is to equip the saints for ministry and to send them out into the world. So it's kind of a twofold thing of helping individuals to find their identity as God's beloved and helping the community to help the world to experience their belovedness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the Episcopal Church, the Anglican Communion, our ethos, how we bring ourselves to conversations, all of that lends itself toward helping people to become active listeners, helping people to become storytellers, helping people to embrace their value and worth, because all of those things are what brings us to recognize our belovedness, the belovedness of our neighbors, and how we cannot continue to go at each other's throats over everything.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, my sense in just Sunday worship is really having to embrace in a beautiful way that our parish is all over the map in terms of contemporary, traditional, inclusive language, more staid language of our traditions, politically, clearly conservative and progressive. And I'll tell you, that's one of the things I love about St. Anthony.
Absolutely.
I love that it feels like those people who are most extreme are not in the community on either end. And those who are progressive and conservative recognize that they can push, but they can't push the other out. That's not authorized. Everybody has to have a place where we can say, you believe in a more progressive, democratic, political viewpoint of the world. You believe in a more conservative, Republican viewpoint of the world. But you're both welcome.
Absolutely.
Because we're Anglicans and we're Episcopalians. We're going to find a way to hear each other, listen to each other, come to communion together, and then to take that out into the world and to invite people into our space as well. You know, I have a vision of St. Anthony being a place where people tell each other stories. And I get it from this podcast. You know, what does it look like for us to be on the way together? Because we are. And one thing it looks like is listening. And one thing it looks like is being in a place where we feel safe to be vulnerable in telling our story.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something we can offer in this part of Scottsdale.
Absolutely.
In this part of the diocese.
Yes.
And in this part of the Episcopal Church, because a lot of pockets in our church have said, if you're this or you're that, you're not welcome here. And that's not our tradition.
No. And I think you really hit on that safe space, and being vulnerable and creating places for that. I think St. Anthony does a good job at that, and is going to continue to be that for now the community. You also really just hit something too for me that was helping people find their worth and their gifts. I think is a huge thing that I'm on board with that, with it's, helping people kind of understand, like, you are beloved, you are, and what is that gift? If it's ice hockey evangelism, let's get you there.
Right.
If it's not, let's get you where because that is a ministry, that is a passion of yours. I tell students this, like, if it's important to you, it's important to God. And that's, to me, that's always been something that's always stuck with me, especially with youth when they're trying to figure out who they are. And I mean, all of us, that's important to all of us. If it's important to us, God loves it.
Yeah. And I have found that when I feel the least value or the least worthy, that's when I'm at my worst with everyone.
Absolutely.
And just as just being vulnerable and sharing, when I had that car accident at the end of March, I'd been here like a month, and blessedly, I was not injured badly. My car was totaled, but it really threw me back for about 3 weeks, where I had been on a 6 or 7 phone call a week, 2 visits with people, and then all of a sudden it was, they don't need me here. I'm not going to be at my best. What do I have to offer? Right. And it's really taken me some time to go back into, I have to offer them what I have to offer them today.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what I have to offer. Yeah. And when I'm feeling like I don't have as much to offer as I need to ask if others have things they can offer. How can we team up together to do those things? And I'm thinking, in this time of we're still clearly in this COVID issue.
For sure.
I think we've come to the point of I don't know, figure it out.
Exactly.
That's the stage of COVID we're in now. Yeah. I don't know. Whatever you have to do.
Right.
Like, well, that I to my knowledge, I haven't had it. To my knowledge, I don't have it. I only have curry chicken bread.
Yeah, right.
So, but I've thought about, what if I end up being one of those people who has long COVID, and what I've always relied on my whole life, my memory. I've got a very good memory for names, for faces, for a lot of things. What if I really struggle with that? How will I engage parish ministry? And who helps me with that? People who are struggling with strokes and with cancer diagnoses, and who are saying, hey, I'm going to need help with this, or I'm going to need meals, or I need transportation. The people in the faith community here at St. Anthony, they're my teachers to help me, that if I come to that point, whatever that is, and God knows, it could be anything at any time.
Absolutely.
I will have them as exemplars of, where do I start? I start with my senior warden. I start with my staff. I start with pastoral care. I get those pieces in place. I talk to my family, so it's less frightening. I don't know how people. Live in the world without a faith community of people who say, I will be there for you when you are not at your best. Yeah. I have to think, when I think back to what it was for me when I didn't, it was frightening. It was frightening. I felt like at any minute, not like something could get me, but at any minute something could happen and there'd be nobody. Yeah. My family. Right, clearly, but still, who would there be? Yeah. And we've had some things come up since I've been here where I've watched the community rally around people quickly. Yeah. Not like a week later they find out. It's like, no, when something happened, somebody called and somebody knew, and then everything got mobilized from there. Yeah. So, and that's a gift in a community. It
really is. I mean,
my gosh.
It's unbelievable, just to see St. Anthony step up, like when you said, with situations that happen, and it's like, oh wow, we already are almost full with what we asked for. Yeah. And the staff, and then we're getting emails. What else can we do? Yeah. What can I do?
Everything I hoped.
Yeah.
So few things that I expected, just because parish ministry can be a slog sometimes, and coming out of the we'll just call it the isolated part of the pandemic. Some of the work we're doing to catch up maybe to 5 or 6 years ago of improving technology. Yeah. We're doing that work now.
Right.
We're getting each other so we're not siloed in our ministry, getting each other where our communication tools are updated so that we can share information rapidly.
Exactly.
And for most churches, we all would have wished we could do that immediately, but most churches were like, could you look up that cloud technology? Because it
the
seems
internet?
like we're gonna. Yes, I got my Google box out and I was on the Intertron the other day and I just couldn't figure out where to put the stamps for my letters.
Serious. I mean, yeah, and that's some churches.
Yeah, and some churches really don't need a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We're a church that is preparing for a next growth spurt.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure.
And a next growth spurt means that we're sharing openly everything, how we communicate, how we prepare the campus.
Yep.
How we tell each other, hey, you're in this space and this has tech support. And on Friday we're going to be over here, and everybody feels it's not as much a communication issue as inclusivity.
Absolutely,
everyone feels like they got all the parts to succeed.
Yep.
Nobody wants to engage, embrace, and passionately involve themselves in a jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
To find that someone hid 3 pieces intentionally. One piece was just missing because we don't do puzzles, whatever it was. But to get to the end and go, I could never have won.
Yeah.
I could never have succeeded.
It's an uphill battle.
Yeah. So we're relaunching our hospitality in the new year and the new program year starting in September. And that's intentionally set to be an entry point that's simple to succeed.
Absolutely.
The resources will be available to say, if you're someone who cooks the best egg bites in Scottsdale, you're going to succeed.
So one of the things that, this is a great question, how do you see intersection between the church and the public square? We kind of touched a little on this as far as getting out there. And with everything kind of going on right now, it's important that the church is in that public square. And
yeah, I think that's a kind of a multifaceted question, clearly. One thing is to offer to the congregation, when you're struggling with what you are experiencing in the world, I am here, your staff is here, the companions are here, our pastoral care are here to listen. We can't fix it.
Right.
We know that, but we can listen, and we can also share our Me Too moments of compassion and empathy.
Yeah.
It's kind of that. When you say I'm in a dark hole. We don't say, "Can I get you a sandwich?"
Right.
We say, "I will get in that hole with you." Okay. So that's one part, is to help the people that are here to go out into the world and be able to navigate in a way that they are surviving, thriving, not making things worse for themselves or for others. And then the next piece is a communal formation, how to provide people the tools to go into the world either as groups, as small pods, or as individuals. So, if you are really struggling with the topic of gun violence in our country, and you make it clear, I don't really do the whole go out and hold signs, and I don't want to protest. Well, here are some other things you might find helpful. Here are addresses to contact your legislative leaders. So helping people within the context of their own giftedness to offer themselves, to the conversation. Also helping them to get a spiritual director. So that I can be their priest and their pastor. Someone else can help them to journey with them in a closer companionship relationship. Okay. And then the other piece is, and we talked about it already, how to go out into the world as a community and how to welcome the world into our community. I think, for some conversations, if we're looking to be a place to have conversation, to do storytelling, to learn active listening, that's not us going out into the world, because we can't control that. We can't control someone being verbally accosted.
Right.
We can't control someone feeling unsafe. We can do that in our own setting.
Absolutely.
We can set down covenantal boundaries, that if you're in this space, this is what our time together will look like. We can set guidelines for who will speak, when people will not speak, what will small group engagement look like, what will being still and just listening look like. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Let me check my list of questions here.
Okay, and I think that's some of the work that the Episcopal Church can be doing in a way that's very, I think it's unique in our world today, wanting to do it and taking the time to do it. And I really would like to do that work, get it started before the next presidential election.
Yeah.
I would like people to feel like I stand against everything that's happening, but I'm still going to go to lunch because I'm not going to let it ruin my because we know people in the last election that couldn't leave the house.
Right.
Just said, "Hey, I can't be out there anymore." I don't want people to be hostage to our fears and anxieties.
Absolutely.
I want us to feel like I have the tools. I have the tools, and today the tool I'm using is bed, and I will be staying in it.
Absolutely.
Or to say, I have the tools, and I am going to go to lunch, but I'm not going to drive, because I know that's going to add a layer of anxiety to me that I can't handle.
I like that.
So.
I like that. Yeah. Tacos, right?
It's always the answer.
That's always that sounds good. One of the questions, and I know you were on before, we ask all of our guests, is our on-the-way moments. And have you experienced any on-the-way moments as of lately?
Oh, gosh, so many on-the-way moments as of lately. One of the ones in the last 2 weeks or so, I've been elected to General Convention twice, and I served once, because the second time I was actually moving here, so I thought ethically I needed to give up my seat in my other diocese. I guess the on-the-way moment was recognizing how that experience can be brought into the parish setting, and how I have the skill sets to be in such a legislative body. I don't have the heart for it. So I'm not feeling like, I wish I was there. It's like, no, I'm listening for what I'm hearing is coming out of it in terms of resolutions, proclamations, celebrations. I'm following the updates from not just our deputation, but around the church and other people I know, because I want to hear, how did that conversation play out? And what's the takeaway for the average person in the pew and the average priest in the chancel? How can we take that and say, hey, they're really going to be opening up the idea of different liturgical styles? Does that mean we really need to be thinking about, is there a liturgy that is more specific to children and families? Is there language more specific to LGBTQ communities? Do we make some shifts seasonally? Do we add on services? Do we bring that into other settings like our formation? So my on the way was another gratitude that I was on the way here and not on the way there. And it was a year ago. It's a year ago I was in Nevada. On the way. And just didn't recognize that on the way was on the way here. And it was a heck of a trail. But had I not been on the way there, I don't know that I would have been on the way here.
Interesting.
They just made it so much clearer.
Yeah. Those moments and these on the way moments are just really, I mentioned this, how our lives are so with what's going on in our personal life versus church and work, and if this didn't happen over here, then this wouldn't. It's just how I mean, God is at work, and it's great.
Well, and you and I were talking about that last night, that the more self-actualized we are, the more self-aware we are,
Yeah.
the reason we can see these things fitting together is because we didn't compartmentalize them.
Right.
The God that walked with me in Nevada is the God that sat with you and watched Encanto.
Yeah.
Is the God that,
Yeah.
one God.
Yeah.
Same God.
Same God,
all
yeah.
over. But when we compartmentalize and think we can, then that explosion hits us that's a God moment too.
Yeah.
Same God. But sometimes it's harsh.
Yeah. Sometimes it's
Like, wow.
that was a sting.
Wow, God, was that a 2x4? Because it felt like a 2x4.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to hearing that constant voice.
Yeah.
I've had those dark night of the soul times, and sometimes self-inflicted.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's
like, God, and I'm like, bloop, bloop, bloop.
Yep.
No, thank you, not today.
not gonna listen.
Not gonna listen like last night.
Not on me. Oh, I know.
This is horrible.
This is
my
horrible.
gosh.
Wow. Thank you, Lord. Oh, well, Canon Holly, thank you so much for coming out today and just being with us. We always appreciate it, and we'll probably have you back 85 more times. So
And Holly's fine.
84, Holly,
Yeah.
84 times, so more.
84 times.
We are grateful. Thank you all for watching and giving us this time this afternoon or this morning or this evening, whenever you watch, listen. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, give us a like, leave a comment. Find us on all of your social medias and all that great stuff.
Do you point down to it?
I did.
Subscribe here.
On the links, subscribe there. So
Give us a thumbs up.
have a good one. That's it for now. Thank you.